Hello, what's up everyone? Gids here for another Kuni Crossworlds video, and today we are talking about Temple Arena. Okay, because tomorrow, Tuesday, will be the last day for Temple Arena for everyone that's trying to still climb up to reach Masters. Why is it important to reach Master? It's because of the league rewards over here. So you'll be able to get 2 6-star selection just for toys. So why is this really good? Well, if you play Familiar Arena, then you already know best toys to get here. If you have been playing for a while now, for sure it's going to be Soarboard Jacket for Ebon Torex or Toko. And of course, we have Shrimp Paler, right? Those would be the primary choices for most of the players because I think almost everyone who's in the top 100 are already running Bor Toko Shrimp comps, okay, with Ebon Torex. Right? So if you have all those completed, of course, you're gonna try to go with your damage dealers. If you have Suiryu, Hippocampus, or any other damage dealers, then you choose that one. But again, let's go back to Temple Arena because this video is going to be 5 tips on how you can climb on Temple Arena. So let's go. Okay, tip number 1, I don't think a lot of people are actually checking this one. It's the map. So you can actually click this top middle part of the screen where you can see the map. So this map is actually semi-transparent and you'll be able to see the location of your teammates while you're battling. So if you try to focus on the screen or on the map, you'll be able to see the map. And if you focus behind this map, you can still see the opponent. So it's not going to be much of a hassle trying to see this one, and you can probably make some plays by looking at how your teammates are positioning. So if you're checking them and they're trying to actually go behind the opponent lines, you can probably follow them. If you're seeing that they're kind of grouped up, maybe you might need to group up with them, or if they're doing something probably on the boss or probably the mid boss buff, then probably you need to go with them. So it's very useful tool. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't, but hey, it's still very useful. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2 is something that a lot of players are ignoring, but it's points. I've seen a lot of moments where we actually lose by only a few thousand points, and the reason is because there are people that are still at 0 points by the end of the game. So if you don't already know the mechanics for Temple Arena, it's possible that you don't lose any points if you have only probably 2,000 to 3,000 points. And it's actually very beneficial for the team, for each player to have at least 2,000 points. Because imagine each player having 2,000 points, that's already 10k in total, right? Because you have 5 players. So if you have 10k in total, then that's already a huge point difference versus the enemy team who has 0 or has 0 points on one player. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't, but hey, it's still the small things, the little things count. Try to get even small points if you're trying to just PvP or probably support the team. If you don't want to hold points, you should at least have 2,000 to 3,000 points in the bank just to support your team in cases of emergency wherein you lose by just a few thousand points. Okay, so this is very important. Try to get points. If you see you're at 0, then you're not contributing anything, even though even if you're saying you're killing people, you're trying to stall whatsoever. Get some points. At least 2k. At least 2k. Okay, 2k minimum. All right. So let's go. Okay, next is tip number 3. Tip number 3 is for the monster buff. Okay, so the buff monster spawns at around, I don't know, probably 1 to 2 minutes in the game. So once this monster buff appears, a lot of people are actually ignoring this one, which is a very big no-no. This is somewhat a comeback mechanic for the losing team. If you're a losing team, then you must be 100% going for the monster buff. This monster buff provides 30% attack increase and 15% movement speed increase for 1 minute. For that 1 minute, it's actually going to turn the tide if you use it correctly, especially if you're trying to dive into the opponent's high points, right? If their high points are trying to hide, your team can do a coordinated attack if you ever can, or your team can just rush in fast because you have a movement speed buff, a huge attack buff. 30% is actually huge, 30% attack buff. So it's going to help you really try to dive into opposing team and then try to take their points. If you are successful in trying to take their high points, then the points will be even again. It's going to be very huge, and this is the second comeback mechanic that you can find in the game. There's another one, which is the boss. We'll talk about that later, but it's still super important. A lot of people are ignoring this. If you are losing, this is the way to come back. Okay, so try to get this thing if you can. Also, for the person who last hits this one, they're going to get their health refreshed. So 100% heal and I think 50% shield. So it's still very beneficial, and I think you still get a few points from this one. So yeah, it's super beneficial. It's super game-changing if you get this one. So don't just let it stand there, okay? Try to get it if your team is losing. Of course, if your team is winning, why not get it for more domination, right? So yeah, or don't let the enemy team get it. So that's dynamics of this one, but a lot of people are ignoring this one. So that's the thing that you can get from this one. 30% attack buff, okay? 15% movement speed. Tip number 4. Tip number 4 is a concept that a lot of people might not understand yet, but this is especially great for low CP players. It's to waste cooldowns. And of course, not waste your own cooldowns. Okay? I think I see a lot of people just going in with auto and just wreaking havoc, right? But a lot of people fail to realize that sometimes hitting those timings, especially when going into big fights, a lot of people have no skills. They don't have any skills ready, and then they just die, right? And or they will not be able to support their teammates. I recommend that you always just use your Q, E, and R, so your basic skills, on facing monsters or when trying to do anything that has something to do with monsters, right? So if you're trying to kill the buff monster or probably the boss, if you're not all inning yet, probably try to save some cooldowns on some key skills like Grasping Thorns maybe, Tarracona Stuns, because Tarracona Stun is not gonna do a lot of damage on monsters, right? It's going to be limited or capped, right? So always try to save your cooldowns, and of course, waste your opponent's cooldowns. You know the concept, right? So if you're low CP, if you have Molten Lion, if you have the Crabo Lantern, you'll be able to soak up so much skills from the opponents just by going in and just being in their face, because you're gonna respawn 3 seconds later and they'll be losing the fights once fights that matter start up. Always try to bait out their skills like Grasping Thorns, Tarracona Stuns, Seismic Powers from Destroyers. Any skill that you can bait out, it's going to be great. Distortion Arrows, you can eat them up, it's okay. Because you're going to die, you're gonna respawn 3 seconds later, and the respawn time is pretty fast. But their cooldowns are probably at 40 seconds, and that's going to give you some time if you're trying to go for a kill on the high points or do something with the boss maybe, right? So try to waste cooldowns of your opponents as much as possible and try to save some of your cooldowns. For me personally, sometimes I go on semi. I go on semi if I'm trying to get the buff monster or I'm trying to do the boss while I know that someone's trying to kill me. Right, so what I do is just I go on semi, I try to use my basic skills as much as possible off cooldown. Right, once they go off cooldown, I use them so that I'll be able to deal much more damage, but I always try to save Tarracona Stuns, Grasping Thorns, and I think I have Ground Eruption. Okay, so try to save those to try to burst enemies when it matters. Okay, so always have something to try to chase, kill, or do something against the enemies, because you never know. Opportunities arise when their high points is low HP and you can just use Tarracona or maybe Sorbor to try to bomb them down, but sometimes that doesn't happen because your skill is on cooldown because you used it on auto accidentally. Okay, that's tip number 4. Tip number 5 is on boss damage, and this golem right here that spawns, I said in an early video before that this boss doesn't matter. It actually matters a lot. Actually matters a lot. So if you don't know yet, the team that gets the last hit on the boss gets 10k points. But what a lot of players don't know is that based on your contribution on the boss damage, you're also actually receiving a lot of points from this boss. So it's possible to receive up to 30,000 points just from killing the boss alone. So if your entire team or if your team soloed the boss, you can get up to 30k points. So don't ignore the boss, guys. It's actually a way to try to end the game fast as well. So if your team is leading so much, you can just bait enemies into going into the boss and losing just by trying to go to the boss right away once it's spawned. Right? If you're in a lead, probably 30k lead, then go start the boss. Drag your enemies into the boss and let them hit the boss and try to end the game early. Because sometimes trying to wait for the timers just giving an opportunity to the opponents to try to steal the points from you. But if you try to end the game early and you're forcing them because they don't want you to last hit the boss, because of course you're going to win for sure. And if they don't do anything about the boss, then you're still going to win. So always try forcing for the boss. Usually, I think even just two people trying to focus the boss is already going to bring the boss's health down so fast. So imagine 5 people going into this one. Sometimes there are moments when we try to kill the high points. Once we kill the high points, we're actually trying to go for the boss, or probably leave the boss at 50% HP. If you're losing, leave the boss at 50% HP, go join the fights, get some points, and then finish up the boss. Okay, that's some of the ways that you can actually win in Temple Arena. And of course, if you're facing cheaters, then there's nothing you can do for sure. But hey, these are some tips that can help you climb. If you have any more tips that you can share them down in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't yet. And thank you very much for watching. Hope this helps you guys. And good luck with your climb for those who are still trying to get to Masters. GG's. See you again next time. Bye-bye.